everyone, welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're taking a deep dive into something I know a lot of you, especially those joining us from Africa, are really interested in, figuring out how to transition from a student visa in Australia to, well, sticking around after you graduate. Yeah, we're talking all about those Australian work visas. And, it can be a bit of a jungle out there.
Yeah, it can be tricky. It's not always clear.
Exactly. There are a lot of different visas and rules. So we're creating a roadmap for you guys in this deep dive by going through all the resources, and hopefully by the end of it, you'll have a clearer picture of how to, go from hitting those books to actually launching your career down under. The cool thing is, even if you don't know what you want to do for work yet, this will still be super helpful for you.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Okay. Now, we know that a lot of you are drawn to Australia for its, awesome education system.
Yeah.
But, I mean, let's be honest. Picturing yourself, enjoying that Aussie lifestyle and that sunshine, that probably doesn't hurt either, right? Exactly. Yeah. I think that's a big draw card for a lot of students, particularly from Africa.
Yeah.
We're seeing more and more students choose Australia every year.
Yeah.
And it's a combination of the strong economy and the beautiful landscape as well.
For sure. But that moment when you're at that graduation ceremony, tossing that cap in the air, you're officially a graduate, then what? What happens after you've packed away all the textbooks?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? What do you do next?
Right.
And the good news is Australia does make it possible to transition from a student visa to a work visa.
Hmm.
But as you alluded to, it can be a bit of a minefield trying to figure it all out.
It can be. Okay, so let's break it down. So most international students in Australia are on that subclass 500 visa, right? That's the standard one.
Yeah, standard student visa.
Okay.
That allows you to study for the duration of your course.
Okay.
It does come with some limitations on work.
Right.
So generally speaking, you're allowed to work up to 40 hours per fortnight every 2 weeks while you're studying.
Right.
But during semester breaks, you can work as much as you like.
Right, right. Yeah, you've got to have time to study and, well, enjoy Australia. So picture this, you're at a cafe in Melbourne, right?
Yeah.
And you're not just sipping on a flat white there. You're the one making it. You're a barista. You've got a part-time job. That's the beauty of it, right? You can actually get a feel for what it's like to work in Australia.
Absolutely. And get some valuable experience in the Australian workforce as well.
Right.
Which can really help you down the track when you do come to apply for those work visas.
Totally. But once you've graduated, that's when you need a new plan, right?
That's right. Yeah. That's when you need that work visa.
You need the work visa. All right. So let's map out the paths. What's the first one?
Okay. So the first stop for many graduates is the temporary graduate visa. Officially, it's known as the subclass 485. Now, don't let your eyes glaze over at the numbers, because this visa is actually really important, and it's specifically designed for recent graduates. It offers two main streams. We've got the graduate work stream, and we have the post-study work stream.
Okay. Two streams. Two different, two flavors of the same visa.
That's a great way to put it,
Yeah.
yeah. Two flavors of the same visa.
Okay. All right. Now you've got me intrigued. I like where this is going.
Okay. So the graduate work stream is for people whose qualifications match up with what Australia really needs. We call this the Skilled Occupation List, or SOL for short. So if your occupation is on that list, the graduate work stream allows you to stay in Australia and work for up to 18 months.
Okay, 18 months.
18 months, yep.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, it gives you a good amount of time to get some experience.
That's awesome. And what about the post-study work stream?
So the post-study work stream is designed for students who have completed at least a bachelor's degree. And this one is a little bit more generous with the time frame. You can get a visa for between 2 to 4 years, depending on your qualification.
Yeah.
4 years is a decent chunk of time to, start to build a life in Australia, build a career. But I'm guessing there's a catch. There's always a catch, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, the main thing with this visa is that you have a very limited time frame to apply after you graduate, 6 months. So you graduate, you've got 6 months to get your application in for this visa. Otherwise, you miss out.
Okay, wow. 6 months goes by so quickly, especially when you're busy finishing up your studies and figuring out your life. So it's key to be on top of it. So we've talked about the temporary graduate visa. What other work visa options are there?
So another popular program is the Skilled Migration Program, and it's all about attracting talented people with skills, to contribute to the Australian workforce. And this one works a little bit differently. This one's points-based. Points. Okay, so like a game Tell me more about this.
Yeah, that's right. Think of it like a game where you're trying to score points, and all these different factors contribute to your score. So your age, how good your English is, your work experience, all of that adds up to give you a score. Even your partner's skills can get you extra points.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. And basically, the higher your score, the better your chances of getting invited to apply for a skilled visa.
Okay, so it's not just about the degree that you have, it's really about showing what you can do, what experience you have. It's kind of like making a case for why Australia should let you stay. What sort of visas are we talking about with this program?
Okay, so two of the most popular visas under this program are the subclass 189 and 190.
More numbers.
I know, more numbers. But these are like the golden tickets because both of these are permanent residency visas.
Oh.
So we're talking about being able to live and work in Australia indefinitely.
Indefinitely. Okay, so no more visa applications after that.
No more visa applications, that's it.
That's the dream. But it can't be that easy. There's got to be something else.
Well, you do have to go through a skills assessment,
Okay.
and that can be quite a process.
What is a skills assessment?
Yeah, so it's basically proving that you actually have the skills to back up your qualifications. It's not enough to just say, hey, I've got a degree in engineering. You have to demonstrate that you can actually do the work. So there are these different assessing authorities for different occupations. So let's say you're a software developer. You'd need to go through the Australian Computer Society, and they would assess your skills, your qualifications, make sure they're up to scratch, make sure they're comparable to Australian standards.
So it's like getting a stamp of approval from the experts in your field. Like, yeah, this person knows what they're doing.
That's a great way to put it, yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. They want to keep the standards high, right?
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so we've talked about the temporary graduate visa. We've dipped our toes into the skilled migration program. What else is out there? What other avenues should people be thinking about?
Well, there's a whole other world out there when it comes to work visas, and
Okay.
we've got to talk about employer-sponsored visas,
Okay.
which is really appealing to people who maybe they've already been working in their field for a bit, or they did some, really cool internships while they were studying.
Right, right. And this is where networking comes in, right? I feel like everyone's always saying, network, network, network.
Yeah, it's so important. And so many people, I've heard stories of people landing jobs in Australia just because they knew someone.
It's all about who you know.
Yeah. Did you know something like 70% of jobs in Australia are filled through networking?
Wow, 70%? Seriously?
It's huge.
Okay. So, wow, yeah.
It's not just an option, it's essential.
Essential. All right, future Aussies, take note. Networking is key. But, okay, back to those employer-sponsored visas. Which ones are the most important?
So the two big ones, there's the temporary skill shortage visa,
Okay.
which is also known as subclass 482.
Mm.
We do love our numbers and abbreviations in Australia, don't we?
You do.
And then the other one is the employer nomination scheme visa, which is subclass 186.
So many numbers to remember. As long as one of them leads to me, drinking coffee in front of the Sydney Opera House, I'm happy.
Uh-huh. As we all are.
Yeah.
So the subclass 482, the TSS, this one lets Australian employers sponsor skilled workers like yourself to come and work in roles where there's actually a shortage of local talent.
Right. Okay.
So they need someone with your skills.
Gotcha.
And it's usually granted for up to 4 years.
4 years? That's amazing. You could really, I could get used to living in Australia in 4 years, definitely.
Yeah, you'd have plenty of time to settle in, travel around, see the country. And, the other good thing about this visa is that if you're working for an employer for those 4 years and they're happy with your work, you may be able to then transition to a permanent residency visa through something like the ENS, the Employer Nomination Scheme, that 186 visa we talked about. So it can be a really good pathway.
Yeah, like a stepping stone.
It is a bit of a stepping stone to that more permanent life in Australia.
Love it. Okay, so the temp to perm strategy seems to be a winner all over the world. What about the ENS visa itself? How does that one work?
So the ENS, the 186, that's kind of like the express lane to permanent residency.
Nice. I like it.
It's for people who got those really high-level skills.
Okay.
They've got a job offer from an Australian employer who's willing to essentially vouch for them and say, yes, we need this person. They have the skills that we need.
So you're basically saying, hey, Australia, this company thinks I'm great, so you should too.
Exactly. You've got it. And that gives a really strong signal to the government that you're in demand. Your skills are needed, which definitely strengthens your case when it comes to applying for permanent residency.
I like it. It's like they're rolling out the red carpet for you in a way.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've covered the temporary graduate visa, the skilled migration points system, and those employer-sponsored options. Is there anything else out there that we haven't talked about? Any other options for people?
Yeah, we can't forget about state-nominated visas.
Ooh, tell me more. What's that?
Okay, so as you know, Australia is divided into states and territories.
Right.
And each state, they actually have their own list of in-demand occupations, and they have their own visa pathways.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so it's a little bit like each state is running its own race to try and attract the best and brightest from around the world.
It's like they're all competing for talent.
Exactly. So let's say you were studying in Melbourne, right, in Victoria, and you fell in love with the city, which many people do,
The great city.
and your profession, let's say you're a healthcare worker, which is in high demand in Victoria, they might have a particular visa program that's designed to attract and keep skilled healthcare professionals in the state.
Wow, so you really have to do your research because one state might be really looking for, say, I don't know, nurses, and another one's looking for more people in tech.
Exactly.
Okay.
So it's worth looking into what each state needs, because by getting that state nomination,
Hmm.
that can actually really increase your chances of getting a visa.
Okay.
And it can also often be a pathway to permanent residency down the track as well.
It's like a warm hug from the state. Like, come on in, we want you.
Exactly.
Okay, so there's a lot here. I'm not going to lie. My head is spinning a little bit.
Yeah.
All these visas. But, I mean, regardless of which path you choose, I'm guessing there's going to be paperwork, right?
There's always paperwork at
Always
first,
paperwork.
but being organized is key.
Yes, organization is key. I'm all about the lists and color coding and all of that, so I totally get it. But what kind of documents are we talking about? What do people need to have ready to go?
Okay, well, you're going to need your passport, obviously,
Okay.
the one with that student visa in it, proof that you can speak English.
Right.
You'll need all those qualification certificates, so
Yeah.
your degree, your diploma, your transcripts, anything like that.
Right, those transcripts with those amazing grades, right?
Absolutely. You want to show them off?
Yeah.
And depending on the visa, you might also need that skills assessment that we talked about before.
Right, yeah, to prove you're the real deal.
Exactly. And then, of course, things like police certificates, health checks, all those important things.
Yeah, they want to know you're a good person and you're healthy.
Exactly.
It's all part of the package.
It is. It's all about showing that you're a valuable member of the community.
Right. So we've covered a lot. We've talked about temporary visas, points, employer sponsorships, those state nominations. Where should people even start? I mean, if you're feeling overwhelmed right now, what's like one key piece of advice you would give?
I think it all comes down to research.
Hmm.
You know, knowledge is power.
Okay.
So really take the time to understand your options. The Australian government website, the Department of Home Affairs website, that's your best friend.
Okay.
That's where you'll find all the information you need about each visa, who's eligible, how to apply, all of that.
Yeah, for sure. I'm a big believer in that, like, don't just go in blind. You've got to do your research.
Exactly.
Mm.
And then once you know which visa you're going for, you can be really strategic about, even how you approach your job hunt, who you're talking to, what you put on your resume.
Right, totally.
It all kind of ties together,
It's true. Okay, so picture this, right? It's a few years down the line. You're living that Aussie life. You've got a job. You're, I don't know, maybe sipping a coffee with a koala.
Hopefully.
Okay, maybe not with a koala, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
You've made your dream happen. You're living in Australia.
That's the dream.
That's what we want for everyone.
And don't underestimate the experience you gain as a student in Australia as well.
Oh.
You're there. You're immersed in the culture. You're improving your English. You're building up that network of friends and colleagues. All of that makes your visa application even stronger
For sure.
because it really demonstrates your commitment to Australia.
Absolutely. They can see that you're serious about it, yeah.
Yeah, it's not just a fling. You're serious about making a life there.
It's true. And, like, I know people always say experience is the best teacher, but sometimes you need a little guidance, And that's where I think those registered migration agents, they can be super helpful, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Because they really know their stuff.
They're like the walking, talking encyclopedias of visa information.
Exactly. Don't be afraid to reach out to them, get some help.
Yeah, they can guide you through all the paperwork and make sure you don't miss any deadlines.
Right. They're like your visa superheroes or something.
Exactly.
There to save the day. Okay. So we've talked about all the temporary visas, but I want to touch on, the long game here.
Yeah.
Because I know a lot of you are probably thinking, I don't just want to be there temporarily. I want to stay in Australia.
Of course, of course.
So what about permanent residency?
Well, the good news is there are paths to permanent residence.
Okay.
We've already mentioned a couple of them, like the skilled migration program where you get those points. Where
Right.
You rack them up.
The points.
Exactly, yeah. And then there's the option to transition from a temporary employer-sponsored visa to a permanent one, like we were saying before with that 186 visa, the ENS.
Right. So
Yeah.
even if you start on a temporary visa, it doesn't mean it's over. Like you can keep working towards that bigger goal, which is awesome. What about, I'm just thinking, what if you meet someone special in Australia? Like, what if love is on the cards?
Yes, love.
I'm all about the love stories.
Well, love can definitely lead to permanent residency as well, through a partner visa.
Okay.
If you end up in a serious committed relationship with an Australian citizen or a permanent resident,
Right.
that's a whole other pathway.
It's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. All right. But I do have to say, like, I feel like we should mention that immigration laws, they're tricky.
Yeah, they can be.
And they can change.
They can change it anytime.
Right. So what's your advice to people? How can they stay updated? Because you don't want to be caught out.
That's so important. Don't ever rely on outdated information. Always go to the source. So check the Department of Home Affairs website.
Yeah.
That's going to have the most up-to-date, accurate information.
And get your best friend that website. Bookmark it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And, final word of warning, I guess. Be wary of anyone who promises you something that sounds too good to be true.
Oh, yeah. Red flag.
If they're like, oh, yeah, we've got this guaranteed way, that's a red flag.
Yeah. If it sounds too easy, it probably is.
Yeah. Stick to the official sources. Stick to those registered migration agents.
Exactly. All right. Well, we've reached the end of our Australian work visa deep dive. I hope you guys feel a bit more informed and, like, you can make this happen.
You absolutely
A
can.
journey.
It is.
But it's totally doable.
But it's definitely possible.
Yes, exactly. Take this information, use it, do your research, get out there, and good luck. Your Australian adventure awaits.
Good luck.
We'll see you guys next time on The Deep Dive.